Hello everybody, welcome back. I'm Liam from ICRobotics, and we're going to start looking through the solutions to the first few levels that you've had a go at so far. Today we're going to look through the solutions to level 1 through 4, and what we're going to go through today is just one way that you could solve these problems. In reality there are many ways to solve all of these, but this is how I did it, and if you follow along with the way I did it, you might learn something extra that you might not have thought of, so it could help make your life a little bit easier in the future levels. So even if you had no troubles whatsoever with these first few levels, listen in and see if you can take anything away from it. So for this first level, the number started off at 10, and we had to drive from the left of the screen to the right of the screen and end in the green box. We have to play with this first number to try and find the right value to drive all the way into the box. 10 doesn't drive far enough, and we found that the right sort of value to get from the start to the end is about 155, like I had before. If you go 158 though, it gets right inside the box very nicely. So something around 150 will get you into the box, 158 lands you nice and square inside. Alright, let's have a look at level 2. In this task, I've already got my code here, so let's just see what it does first. We've got to drive out and into the box. So in this one, it was a little bit more difficult because we had to avoid these blue lines and still get to the green square. So running through our solution, we drive forward, we drive straight. This should say to the right, because we're driving straight across the screen towards the right, and then we're turning right, so we're turning around here and facing downwards. That's what this block here does. We're moving and turning with a value of 26, and then we drive straight, and that's going to drive us in this sort of L shape. This line here is the new one because it's got a turn value. All the ones we had so far were zeros. This one has a big number in the turn, which means it's turning quite sharply. And this is a really good block to copy and use in our future levels, which we'll see in just a moment, because now that we know how to do a perfect 90-degree turn with this block, we can copy it and use it in all of our other levels. Let's take a look at 3, where we can see I've used these blocks as well. So let's just see what it does first. We have to drive around this blue line. So I turn straight away, down, across, and up. And we've done the same thing here. I immediately turn using this very same turn block we have here. So it's exactly the same values. I actually just copied this line into this project so that it did the same turn as I had made already. And then I just had to figure out how far to drive on each of these straights. So it's turning, so it's now facing down. Then it drives down to here, turns to face to the right, drives across the bottom here, turns upwards, that's this turn, and then goes up to the green square. What I had to do to make it turn in different directions was put a minus in front of the turn direction. So with this as positive, it would turn the other way, so we'll watch here, it'll actually turn the other direction. See there? But if you want to turn to the left, you've got to put a minus, and then it gets there. So now we've got a block for turning to, we've got a block for turning both directions. We've got a block for turning to the right and one for turning to the left, which is very helpful to have in this last challenge, which is a really long one. So level 4, let's run it through. You can see it's a big maze, and we had to get to the green square all the way down here, avoiding the blue lines. There's also an optional orange square here, and I've got another solution that we can look at next that gets to the orange square. But you can see I've just got a lot of combinations of straight drives and these turn blocks that I've just copied from my previous projects. So it starts up here with a straight drive, a long straight drive, that's that 325 long across, and then the exact same turn I've been using in all my other projects to go downwards, straight drive, turn, straight drive. and all the way down here with more turns and straight drives. It gets a little bit more complicated when we want to try and get to this optional orange square. If you didn't do the orange square, don't worry, it's okay, it was optional. But here's how you could do it. Let's play the program and see what it does. There's a little bit of a hint at the top here. To make it drive backwards, you can use a minus number for the distance. So here I've got all of my straight drives and turns getting me down to the orange. And then when we get to the orange, I do something a bit interesting. We just reverse the same movements we did to go backwards. And then it's on doing more of what we've seen before. So how do we do that bit? Well, this is the block of code that goes into the orange section. So that's coming down here around. And then there's a big block here as well to get back out. That's going reversing the other way. So we kind of know about this stuff. It's just all drive straights. This stuff is more interesting because we're actually driving backwards. So all of my drive straights, I just took straight from here. I put it in the opposite order so that it played them in reverse. And I put a minus in front so that it would drive backwards instead of forwards. I also put a minus in front of all the turns so that it would turn the other direction. And that way it goes down here, and then I replay all those moves backwards so it gets back up here. And we can continue on like normal to get to the green square. The other thing I've used here is some double slashes. I've used them all out in my code actually, and you might even see them up in the hints. These are comments, so this is a really good way to organize your code to let you know and other people know what it does in different sections. If you want to make a comment, you do a double slash like this, and then you can type whatever you want, and the robot will ignore these lines of code. Anything with a slash in front, the robot's going to completely ignore. It's only this stuff that it actually tries to read. And you can even put comments after the lines as well. Anything I put up here, the robot's going to ignore. Let's have a little bit of a look at some of the common sticking points for people. And that's mostly around syntax, which means what different text characters you use to write your code and make it actually understandable by your robot. There's these brackets, there's a comma that we have to worry about, there's this little semicolon at the end as well. So let's have a quick look through those before we finish up. This is our last level, so we have finished up. When you open a bracket like this, so this is the open bracket and this is the close bracket, when you write your first one to open this up, you need to make sure that you put a closed one right after it. So I'll just write an example here, robot.move, and then if I type an open bracket, there's a little bit of a problem here because there's something opening and it's never being closed, and the robot gets a bit stuck with that, doesn't know what to do. So a good thing to do to make your life a little bit easier is whenever you type an open bracket, immediately type the closed one after it. And that way you'll never end up getting stuck with a missing bracket. And inside of that I can type my numbers. So once I type my closed one, I can go back one and start typing my numbers. You need the comma in between like you've seen before. And then at the end of all of our lines and all of the example lines, there's this little semicolon here. And that tells the robot that that's the end of this instruction. Otherwise you could have more lines after it, and it would read them all the same. So saying robot.move 10 forward and at a turning rate of 10, and then that's the end of the line there. Now we're using a language called JavaScript to program our robot. That's what all of this code is written in. That's the language. And JavaScript does something interesting. It can insert semicolons for you automatically. So that just means if you don't type a semicolon, it actually runs just fine. So I can get rid of this. Maybe I'll come back to level 1. If I get rid of that semicolon, it still runs just fine. It's because JavaScript, the language that we're using here, has inserted this semicolon for me automatically behind the scenes. It's nice to write it there, to make it obvious that that's where the line ends, but it's actually not that much of a big deal. If you don't get it, don't worry about it. Okay, that's the answers to level 1 through 4 with a few tips and tricks at the end. So hopefully you find that helpful. If you still have questions, feel free to ask, and good luck with the next challenge. All right, bye.